Welcome to another episode of the Wunderdog Podcast. My name is Nina May. In this episode, we're talking about an issue that's not only quite political, it also affects wildlife as well as dogs. Fox hunting. Yes, it still happens in the UK, even though it was supposedly outlawed in 2004. But the bill at the time left a huge loophole. Trail hunting was still allowed, so that hunters could lay a sort of artificial trail and still do their thing. That loophole has been used and abused so many times, it's left many people wonder why even bother with the law. Hunts, every time, have claimed it was a one-off, a legal trail that has just gone wrong. And the police never really seemed to care. In fact, it was revealed that some policemen even rode with the hunts. So it was left to animal campaigners to monitor the hunts and report abuses. And despite hundreds of violations of the fox hunting ban, hardly any hunt has ever been prosecuted in the more than 20 years since the ban came into effect. During the last election, Labour said enough is enough and promised in its manifesto to finally and fully end trail hunting. But in March, DEFRA put the ban out for consultation. Could there be some backtracking? You see, the hunters have come up with a cunning new argument. A full ban would lead to a dog abandonment crisis. Up to 10,000 hounds could be made homeless or worse if the ban came in. And before you say it, no, according to the hunters, the hounds can't be rehomed. Absolutely not. Yes, they did start their lives in homes, but according to the hunters, they can absolutely not end their lives in a home. Instead, they are normally just shot. MPs, it seems, are now bombarded with questions about this. Would saving the foxes lead to a dog welfare crisis? Well, enter a new campaign group called Rehome the Hounds. It's made up of dog rescuers, a dog trainer, and an animal rights advocate. They argue the welfare crisis is already happening. Most hounds are not treated well as it is, and usually shot at the end of their useful lives. So for the hunters to claim they are concerned about dog welfare is a bit rich. The Rehome the Hounds campaign is still in its puppy stage. Following a meet and greet outside Parliament, the group urges everyone to fill in the trail hunting consultation by DEFRA and for charities to pledge help. Their main message is simple: we can rehome the hounds. To talk about the ins and outs of rescuing dogs with a high prey drive, what hunt monitors have found, and how we can all get involved, I spoke to the three founders, and I began by asking them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Laura Walker. I'm the founder and director of the Pack Project. We rehome dogs mainly from Romania into homes in the UK. And we've partnered on this campaign called Rehome the Hounds.
Hi, I'm Amelia Steele. I'm a professional dog trainer and a behavioural specialist, and I predominantly specialise in working with rescue dogs and difficult dogs that struggle to get homes.
I'm Charlotte Smith. I'm a campaigner with Protect the Wild. We've done a lot of sort of campaigning for, obviously, the new hunting ban, various other campaigns we have running as well. We've partnered with Laura and Amelia on Rehome the Hounds.
Laura, tell me about the campaign to rehome the hounds.
So recently I started, obviously I've been aware of the campaign to close the loopholes. And I've always been aware that it was ongoing. Obviously I was aware of the government consultation and very supportive of it. And then recently I started seeing that the argument to maintain the status quo and keep the current loopholes was because the hounds would have to be killed. And it totally enraged me. Like, it made me so angry. I was like, what an absolutely disgusting, absurd, insane thing to say. We've rehomed dogs from backgrounds in Romania where they've never lived in homes before, where they have been working dogs. And it made me so angry that could be a reason for them to say that they should keep it. And so I started looking for ways that I could help and that the Pack Project could get involved and help. And that's when I found Protect the Wild, and I saw that they'd started talking about the same thing. Rehome the Hounds is trying to show people that actually hounds can be rehabilitated, can become pets, can come into families, can find homes with the right support, the right guidance, the right framework, and finding the right adopters for them. It's not a case of just anybody could have one of these dogs.
Charlotte, you are the expert idea in the sense that your charity has for a long time already campaigned on this and also collected evidence. What have you found?
So really, we were looking at the welfare of hounds, and the welfare of hounds as it is not good anyway. Hounds are obviously already shot, which is a big thing that hunting industry narratives tend to leave out, is that they already are shooting them. They're shooting thousands of hounds a year. In 2021, we released undercover footage of the Burford hunt shooting a hound. When we let veterinary professionals review this, they were concerned about the lack of restraint for the hounds and incorrect procedures being followed. So we're not listening to the hound's heartbeat after death. And then in some footage, hounds were shot once and then again 3 minutes later. So their welfare is already at risk. They're already being shot. It's already massively underregulated. We also did our 2025 report. Over 3 years, from 2022 to 2025, there were 2,444 welfare incidents. Nearly half of these were hounds reported to be lost or out of control. No hunt, as of yet, that we're aware of, have been prosecuted under any other legislation for their hounds being lost or out of control. We also found that in every year, at least 12 dozen hounds were involved in like car or train collisions with at least one fatality. Again, no consequences for the hunt. Obviously, the hounds face the larger consequence of like losing their lives in some instances. So really, the Hunting Act ban, like the hunts may argue that, you know, these hounds are all going to die, but they're already dying is one, and their welfare is already at risk as they are living now, unfortunately. So it's just there proof that there needs to be a ban, but hunts also need to be responsible, stop the breeding of hounds, and contact rescues to look at approaches or infrastructure of how they can rehome them. Because even this year, hunts have continued breeding them, knowing that a ban is coming.
And you have been in the discussions with DEFRA. What are you hearing, and sort of what's your gut feeling about the whole thing?
So at the end of April, Protect the Wild were invited with other organisations to a roundtable meeting, as were obviously the opposing side as well, to discuss what we'd like to see from this legislation. Around that table, DEFRA and Sue Heyman, she did say it is on our manifesto and they do intend to bring in a ban. In terms of sort of like how we're looking at it, not entirely sure yet. They have a lot of obviously responses to go through as well. But she did seem to very much commit to the fact that a ban is coming in. It'll just be how that looks like at the moment.
And when you raised the hounds issue, what was the reaction from the group?
So during the meeting, there were a few positives, like hound welfare needs to be spoken about. And DEFRA themselves were very interested in reading our reports. So after a roundtable meeting, you can submit evidence. Some other orgs were sort of, I think they're more concerned about obviously the number of hounds, which is why it's really important that at the end of the day, it is the hunt's decision, isn't it? But there are approaches, like I'm sure Laura could speak more of, like phased rehoming. If they stopped breeding now, it could actually only sort of come into force in the next 5. So really that gives like a longer period of time for hunts to stop breeding hounds.
Amelia, you are volunteering in a dog shelter in Manchester. For these foxhounds might end up needing a home. What are your thoughts on this?
It kind of comes from multiple standpoints, because first of all, I work with a rescue that already has a contract with local greyhound racing groups, and so they take in quite a large volume of ex-racing dogs, and for me, the similarity there is that this sort of narrative that, well, they can be rehomed from this lifestyle, but not the lifestyle where they are being used in a similar capacity to hunt, for being bred for very high prey drive. That didn't sit right with me because it's such a contradiction. I would also say that we see a significant number of behavioural issues across the board with dogs. You know, a lot of dogs in rescue are young male dogs who are very large and very difficult. And so most of my day-to-day work when I'm working with the shelter is dealing with those difficult dogs. And a lot of those issues are things that would be more difficult to deal with compared to what we're hearing from ex-hunting hounds. So again, the idea that hounds are unrehomable, or that they would need more than what you would typically need from a rescue dog. That's something I really wanted to set the record straight on. I've also been putting the feelers out because, again, the ban hasn't gone through yet. It's early days, but just to get an idea in terms of how that would impact a real rescue that is operating. And from speaking to them on the ground, there is absolutely stuff they can do. They are willing to support the dogs. And from their perspective, the idea was, if there's a dog in need, it's our duty to help them regardless of what their background is, and that it's not the case of it would inconvenience them because they would be flooded. It's very much a case of a dog is a dog and we will do what we can to help. So that's something that I think is important to put out there as well.
The hounds are trained to follow a scent. They understand with greyhounds that they can't necessarily be around small fluffy dogs because they mistake them for something they want to hunt. How do you get rid of this prey drive, but whether it's hounds or greyhounds?
I have worked with so many dogs from ex-working backgrounds. We will rehome dogs that have failed police work. And, these dogs, again, they're bred to chase and bite people. They're trained to chase and bite people. And that's never stopped them from being trained and rehomed. And there's never any controversy around these dogs being rehomed despite their training. With the greyhounds, obviously, they are trained to chase small animals. So the rescue that I work with, for example, it's mandatory that the greyhounds have to be muzzled. They have to be kept on a lead. And it's similar. Again, I've worked with so many rescues from overseas where they have been sent hounds in the country where they've come from, whether that's Spain, Cyprus, Macedonia, again, Romania. Sometimes we have to accept that the traits that we breed dogs for exist, and we can't just necessarily get rid of them. And I think that's a huge part of understanding and working with these dogs, is accepting who they are. What that doesn't mean, though, is that we can't facilitate a happy, fulfilling life for them, because with some dogs we'll be able to look at those things and say, actually, we can teach them to redirect onto other scents. We can do scent work at home with them. We can reduce that prey drive and we can redirect them onto other things. But on the other hand, if it's a case that, well, this dog has been practicing these behaviors for 6-7 years and it's something they have a really, really high drive for, that doesn't mean they can't live a happy life. A dog on a long line or living on a lead, there are still ways that we can give them outlets. I work with a company that make chaser toys specifically for dogs with very high prey drive. Muzzle training is a really popular thing nowadays. There's so many resources for it, and it's actually something that I would always say every dog should have, because you never know when your dog might have an accident and have to go to the vet. Any dog can bite. Any dog can decide that they've had enough and they want to bite you, or that they feel like chasing something that day. So again, that's something that we're really trying to reduce the stigma of. And I think overall, it's just a case of, one, understanding and accepting the dog and those traits, and then helping them to live a fulfilling life. You can give them the things that they love, like chasing things and following scents and working with you, without the downsides of, getting stuck in barbed wire or running in front of a train or getting shot. I think the narrative that you're taking them out of a life that they love is really harmful, because it's not loving if it comes with all those downsides. You can still give them those things that they love without overworking them, injuring them and killing them off. I think that's a really, really important thing to get out there.
Laura, that sounds like some of the dogs you're dealing with, and you've given them all the love and care and behavioral support that you can muster, right? So how are you feeling about the foxhounds?
We've rehomed dogs from all different backgrounds in Romania. And the majority of dogs that we rehome have never stepped foot inside a house. They've never stepped foot inside a car. They've never been on a sofa. And we've been doing this for nearly 10 years now. We've got 1,500 adoptees. Some of those are cats, but at least 1,000 dogs that we have adopted out from a similar background. Some of them have been working dogs in Romania. And we've refined our process over the last 9 years. We know what we need to look for in people. We know what advice to give them. Obviously, we work with Amelia and another couple of behaviourists as well. So Toby Craze and somebody called Helen Harris. So we work really closely with them. We're in a good place to be able to help not just ones that we can find homes for, but other organisations that might not have had dogs from this background our dogs out in Romania live in kennels with other dogs, the same as what's happening with the hunting dogs. When we're talking about the hounds and why it's Rehome the Hounds and not Rehome the Foxhounds, is because it's not just foxhounds. So there's all different types. And again, we've got a complete mix of breeds that we've helped, all different shapes and sizes. So what I want people to know is that there are experts in the field saying that this can be done. This should not be a reason that you shouldn't sign the consultation.
And Charlotte, what kind of dogs are we talking about?
So there's foxhounds, they are the most visible. Under the BSHA, which is the British Hounds Sports Association, they are the majority of registered packs. They're the ones that you often see with, like horseback, the typical sort of, when you think fox hunter, they're who you think of. There are also foot packs, beagles and bassets that hunt hares. There's buck packs, buck hounds. I think there's one or two of them, and stag hounds as well. And then apart from that, there's obviously bloodhounds, which hunt human scent, and drag hunts as well, which are still foxes, but they say that the trail that they lay is not an animal's trail, like trail scent.
Is there a way that we can bridge the divide? It is such a deeply political issue, and it seems to end in confrontation quite often. Do you think, is there a willingness for a sensible dialogue from the hunting community?
So I do think I do think potentially that discussions are possible, especially between rescues and hunts. It's not something Protect the Wild will look to do ourselves, because we're not the best place in terms of like a behaviourist or rescue to really go through that with hunts. But I do think it is possible if hunts want to. It's whether hunts want to engage. I think one of the most difficult things I've experienced sort of professionally, but also sort of personally with my local hunt, is the very strong belief that these dogs cannot be rehomed. You have people, without a doubt, on hunts that absolutely love the hounds. They're there for the hounds and not that bothered about, foxes being hunted. That's not their sort of main concern. They are there to watch the hounds work. They love the hounds, but even those people fully believe that they are not rehomable. I don't know if that's because the experience they've had with, hounds destroying stuff in homes, if they have been retired. Because a handful, you're looking at less than 1% of all the foxhounds in the country. There is evidence online of supporters of hunts with their retired puppy walk hounds. To give people a bit of information, so a puppy walker for a hunt actually has the hounds as puppies in their homes, and they're taught to walk on leads, they're taught to sit, they're taught their names, and then they return to the hunt about 10 months to a year old, and that's when they're entered sort of to begin training to be with the pack and in the kennel life. To say that these dogs can't be rehomed, it's quite a statement to make.
Let's talk about the campaign then. Laura, you start.
The campaign is Rehome the Hounds. We're going to be outside Parliament on the 19th of May with some hounds, with some MPs, trying to get the story out there that hounds can be rehomed. That it's as simple as that. We're not talking about the logistics and the details. It simply is these dogs can be rehomed, and that's what we're trying to make sure everyone hears about. We just want to get the word out there that these dogs can become pets. That is the sole focus of what we're doing.
Another really important thing to add as well, we were thinking of sort of off this event as well, asking rescues that maybe can pledge to at least help one hound to get in touch. We're going to launch a website where there'll be a form that rescues can fill out to sign up to pledge, at least one. They might be able to pledge more, that's great. Just so, if and when a ban comes in, hunts then have a list of rescues. They can look at a rescue near them and say, this rescue said, a pledge to at least help or take one hound or however it may be, and then the hunt can reach out to the rescue. Hopefully, again, we'll have MPs there. Megan McCubbin, she's going to come along as well. The new hunting ban's also come in. And hopefully it'll just sort of get a buzz. It'll give us a chance to discuss with MPs as well directly the arguments that you're hearing in Parliament quite often. When MPs stand up and go, my constituents are asking what will happen to the hounds. So it's giving other MPs the baseline arguments of, well, what is happening to the hounds already? All these hounds going to get shot, but they already are getting shot. Their fate doesn't change. And the whole point of this campaign is hopefully in a couple of years' time, whenever the ban is actually enforced, there'll be the groundwork there for hunts to reach out to behaviourists as well. Amelia is going to help with a list of contacts for behaviourists and rescues that can help and discuss approaches or logistics of how this could look. To even if we saved 100 hounds, that's 100 more than would have been, because they avoided the fate that the hunts give them anyway.
I've been hearing a lot of if, Charlotte. Is there a risk that this could fail?
I mean, Sue Heyman did say at the meeting at the end of April, it is on the manifesto and they do intend to bring it in. It's just, again, how that would look like. They are very focused on wanting to close all the loopholes. Scotland brought in a new bill for hunting in 2023 and it sort of failed. No one knows what this is going to look like yet. Even DEFRA, because they've not finished the consultation, they can't. And obviously they have to speak to the police about enforcement and everything like that. So it depends as well how this looks. Because the hunts might be able to keep their hounds. No one really knows what's going to happen yet.
One thing that everyone can do right now, of course, is fill in the consultation. Do you have some guidance on this?
It's very easy. So we have a consultation template on our website that people can read and use. But it's also really important that people submit their individual responses, because DEFRA know when it's like a campaign sort of template that is being used. So I would really, really ask people to, go on the consultation, submit it. You can read information on Protect the Wild website as well if you need a bit of guidance or anything, because there are quite a few questions.
Thank you so much, everyone. Amelia, I hope that we can record another episode once the foxhounds have come in and you might be able to give us much more training advice on how to help these wonderful creatures. And Charlotte, I would also love to record another episode with you once this is all through and fox hunting is finally outlawed. And Laura, I guess we always chat, right? Romanian dogs, beautiful Devon, the Pack Project. There's always so much to talk about. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you very much for everything you do for the dogs and through the magazine.
Thank you so much to Laura, Amelia and Charlotte. Now, there has been a lot of information in this short episode, so I've put, hopefully, everything together in one place on Wunderdog's new Substack. So head to wunderdog.substack.com. You'll find links to the Rehome the Hounds campaign page, to the DEFRA consultation, and also to the people I spoke to. If you take one thing away from this episode, I want you to remember what Amelia said. A dog is a dog, and we will do what we can to help. Some charities have already pledged space if the ban comes in, plus experts and volunteers are at the ready. Don't let the hunters hide behind the hounds. Trail hunting must finally end, and we can rehome the hounds. That's all for this episode. To make sure you never miss a post or a new podcast, please subscribe to our newsletter at wunderdog.substack.com. In the next episode, I'll be speaking to Caroline Jenkins. She is the head of campaigns at Battersea Dogs and Cats Home. Until then, cuddle your dogs from me. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.